Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the third lecture of literary translation. And in this lecture we are going to discuss thoroughly the art of literary translation and more specifically translating poetry. So first we are going to discuss the notion or the fact that poetry translation may be defined as relaying poetry into another language. So in translating poetry we are rendering not only information, not only vocabulary, foot and rhythm and rhyme, but also the pleasure, the sound pleasure or pleasure relating to the emotions or feelings from one language into another. So it's all about the tone, it's all about word choice and word order, along with the right foot and the right rhyme. Poetry's features can be sound-based, syntactic or structural, or pragmatic in nature. Apart from transforming text, poetry translation also involves cognition, discourse, and action by and between human and textual actors in a physical and social setting. A poetry translation project usually aims to publicize a poet or poets. So the project of translating poetry aims to expose or show or publicize a certain school of poetry or a certain poet. Poetry translation is typically overt, and poetry translators are concerned to interpret a source poem's layers of meaning, to relay this interpretation reliably, or to create a poem in a target language which is readable and enjoyable as an independent literary text. So when you translate poetry, you aim to produce a text that is at the same level of pleasure and at the same level of readability and enjoyability as the original text. Okay? Poetry translation involves certain challenges, and these are highlighted in this specific lecture. Poetry accounts for a tiny proportion of world translation output, and case studies and examples taken from poetry have dominated theory building in translation studies at the expense of more frequently translated genres. So it's all about translating poetry that seems challenging or that seems more difficult in translating literature in general. What about the strategies of literary translation? In translation, we have certain strategies that may help in transferring the text when we aim to translate it from one language into another. For example, one, we have adaptation. Adaptation is a technique whereby one cultural element is replaced by another, which is typical of the receiving culture. So we adapt this word in order to be more understandable in the target text. Okay? This technique is very useful when translating advertisements, slogans, and so on, which employ a number of different linguistic processes. In these cases, the most important thing is the actual meaning of the message, rather than the words making it up. Number two, we have the strategy of linguistic amplification. Translation technique adds new linguistic elements in the target text. It's the opposite of the linguistic comprehension technique. It means using a paraphrase in order to explain a word with no equivalent in the target language. And it's very frequent to find sometimes some words that is untranslatable. We have no equivalent for this word in the target language, so we have to make some linguistic amplification in order to paraphrase in order to reach a compromise between the two languages. Okay? Number 3, we have compensation. Compensation is a translation technique whereby a piece of information or stylistic device is moved to another location in the text because it doesn't have the same effect if maintained in the same place. And here we have word order, here we have sentence order, here we have word plays, here we have puns, any sort of linguistic tools that we may change its order to be more understandable in the target text. Number 4, elision. The fourth technique of literary translation is elision. Elision is the process that involves removing items. Remove. We have the authority here to remove some items of information in the original text so that they don't appear in the target text. As with the linguistic compression technique, elision is the opposite of the amplification process. Literary translators are frequently compelled to condense the information. Condense, it means to limit or to condense the information contained in some part of a text being translated. To do this, some items considered as non-essential must be removed because their elision will improve the stylistic quality of the translated work. Number 5. The fifth strategy of literary translation is borrowing. Borrowing is a technique often used in literary translation and is also applied, for example, in medical and business translation. This translation technique involves using a word or an expression in the original literary text and placing it as it is, with no modification in the target text. This can be an expression taken from Latin or Greek word or Latin language, or a familiar expression by speakers, or a proverb or an idiom. Okay? Now, let's translate or attempt to see the translation of a sonnet written by William Shakespeare and see how it's rendered into Arabic. The sonnet itself is number 18, and Shakespeare in this sonnet attempts to make a comparison between the beauty of his beloved and the beauty of the moderation of weather in summer's day. And then he suddenly says, no, you are more beautiful and more temperate, and says why. So the first two lines is the beginning or the introduction of the poem. Shall I compare thee? Shall I compare you to a summer's day? And then he immediately removes this assumption. No, thou art. It means you are more lovely and more temperate. Let's see how Professor Muhammad Ainani in 1962 attempted to translate these lines. In 1962, Dr. Ainani translated the first line, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. These two lines are like a monologue, an internal monologue, حوار داخلي within the poet himself. So Professor Muhammad Ainani translated as ألا تشبهين صفاء المصيف بل أنت أحلى وأصفى سماء. So he let himself expose some words and he let himself add some comprehension or some sort of nouns in order to make the same assumption. So he started with the ألا ألا تشبهين صفاء المصيف. Not exactly summer's day, it means يوم الصيف. No. Thou art more lovely. بل أنت. He added بل علشان يضحد هذه الفرضية. هذه الفرضية أصبحت مهينة. أنت لا تشبهين ذلك على الإطلاق. أنت أعلى وأصفى وأحلى سماء. وهيبدأ بعد كده ويليام شكسبير يقول لماذا، ونفس النسق في اللغة العربية بيبدأ يترجم بروفيسور محمد عنان. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May. الرياح العاتية تهز براعم الصيف وبراعم الربيع وبراعم شهور مايو. ففي الصيف تعصف ريح الزبول. And summer's lease has all too short a date. وأيام الصيف أصلها قصيرة الأمد. وتعبث في برعمات الربيع ولا يلبس الصيف حتى يزول. لماذا أتى هنا بكلمة يزول؟ In order to be at the same sound effect with the زبول. Yes, sometimes too hot the eye of heaven shines. أحيانا تكون عين السماء وهي الشمس حارقة للغاية. فهنا ترجمها دكتور محمد عناني: وفي الصيف تسطع عين السماء. And often his gold complexion dim. ويحتد القيد مثل الأتون. وفي الصيف يحجب عنا السحاب ضيا السماء وجمال ذكاء. And every fair from fair sometimes declines. ما فيش شيء جميل بيفضل طول الحياة جميل. فهنا ترجمها: وما من جميل يظل جميلا. فشيمة كل البرايا الفناء. And every fair from fair sometimes declines by chance or nature's changing course untrimed. But thy eternal summer, thy it means your, صيفك الدائم shall not fade. هنا ترجمها: ولكن صيفك ذا لن يغيب. Nor lose possession of that fair thou owest. ولن تفقدي فيه أي شيء. ترجمها: ولن تفتقدي فيه نور الجمال. ولن تفتقدي فيه نور الجمال. Nor shall death ولا حتى الموت brag thou wanderest in his shade. لن يستطيع الموت سحب هذا الجمال وهذه الروعة في ظلاله. فترجمها: ولن يتباهى الفناء الرهيب بأنك تمشين بين ظلاله. When eternal lines to time thou growest. إذا سخت منك قصيد الأبد. لو أنا استطعت أن أخلدك بين سطور شعري. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see. ما دام في الأرض ناس تعيش وما دام فيها عيون ترى. So long live this. فسوف يردد شعري الزمان. And this gives life to thee. وفيه تعيشين بين الورى. لماذا استخدم كلمة ترى؟ ولماذا استخدم word order الورى in order to produce the same sound effect? So when we listen to an Arabic line says ما دام في الأرض ناس تعيش وما دام فيها عيون ترى، فسوف يردد شعر الزمان وفيه تعيشين بين الورى. It's exactly the same readability and pleasure and sound effect and tune as the original text. Okay? Another translation for the same sonnet but by Professor Safa al-Khalousi 1986 من ذا يقارن حسنك المغري بصيف قد تجلى وفنون سحرك قد بدت في ناظري أسمى وأغلى. Again, she is attempting to produce the same sound effect. And the concluding lines: ما دامت الأنفاس تصعد والعيون تحدق سيظل شعري خالدا وعليك عمرا يغدق. It's another attempt or another translation of the same sonnet. Okay? Now let's move on to translating some separate lines, and let's try to translate these lines from Arabic into English. Okay? The first line is: وما كنت ممن يدخل العشق قلبه ولكن من يبصر جفونك يعشق. Now, when we attempt to translate this line, we need to take care of the tone and the word order. So, one attempt of translation for this line can be: I was never a man of love. For example, a man of love, but seeing those eyes are or is the reason. This is an ordinary language that has nothing to do with the literary translation. But when we attempt to translate this line literally, we can say love was never able to enter my heart, so I get enter to make some sort of personification for love, to say I am not a man of love. Okay? But seeing your eyes, once seeing your eyes, I inevitably يعني على طول inevitably fall. يعني مجرد ما شفت عينيكي أنا على طول عشقت وأبصرت. أوكي؟ طيب تعالوا نشوف جملة أخرى أو سطر شعري آخر. أغرك مني أن حبك قاتلي وأنك مهما تأمري القلب يفعل. Let's see an ordinary language. Are you so proud that your love is my killer? And that whatever you ask is obeyed immediately مثلا أو obeyed. This is an ordinary language that has nothing to do with a literary style or literary translation. If we attempt to translate literally, we can say, are you elated that your love kills me وأنك مهما تأمري القلب يفعله, and that whatever you ask of my heart is obeyed. Okay, so again this can be some sort of a literary style or a literary translation. يهواك ما عشت الفؤاد فإن أمت يتبع صدايا صداقة عند الأقبر. Let's translate it in sort of ordinary language. يهواك ما عشت الفؤاد. يهواك ما عشت الفؤاد يعني أصل الجملة يهواك فؤادي مهما أنا عشت. As long as I live I shall love you even in death or after death. My echo shall follow yours to the grave or to graves. Again, this is an ordinary language. Let's translate it literally. As long as I live, my heart loves you. And when I die, my echo follow yours to graves. Again, أنت النعيم لقلبي والعذاب له فما أمرك في قلبي وأحلاك. أنت النعيم لقلبي والعذاب له فما أمرك في قلبي وأحلاك. Let's translate it. For example, in ordinary language it can be you are both a bliss and a torment to my heart. How bitter and sweet you are. Okay, let's translate it literally, and it can be something like you are or such a bliss of heaven and a torture of hell to my heart. How sweet and how bitter you are. Okay, so we eliminated or removed the word heart and we added some words like hell and heaven and so on. ما عجبي موت المحبين في الهوى ولكن بقاء العاشقين عجيب. We can translate it in an ordinary language by saying, for example, no wonder that lovers die in love, but more wonder in lovers staying alive. Okay, or but the wonder is in lovers staying alive. Okay, let's translate it literally. I never wonder, for example, I never wonder why lovers die of love, but I am amazed. ده الأمر العجيب. I am amazed how those in love remain alive. ازاي بيقدروا يعيشوا ويكملوا في الحياة. okay so لقد دب الهوى لك في فؤادي دبيب دم الحياة إلى عروقي. لقد دب الهوى لك في فؤادي. Love shivers in my heart the same way blood of life sway in my veins. This is such an ordinary language that has nothing to do with any sort of figures of speech or literary translation. But we have another translation. Your love crawls, its personification, crawls gently in my heart. The same tingling sensation that blood in my veins. So here we have personification of love in crawls and in gently, and we have simile, the same tingling sensation of blood in my veins. okay again we have إن يهدم العشاق ركن ولائهم فبناء حبي راسخ الأركان. هنا عندي صورة وعكسها. in ordinary language it can be lovers can destroy pillars of faithfulness unlike my love that is so still. This is an ordinary language, but in more literary language it can be إن يهدم should lovers tear down the edifice of their loyalty, the bases or foundations of my love is راسخ الأركان. هنا I'm sorry foundation راسخ الأركان يعني is unshakable يعني غير قادر على ان هو ايه يهتز او يموت او يندفع. اوكي لو كان قلبي معي ما اخترت غيركم ولا رضيت سواكم في الهوى بدلا. In an ordinary language it can be if my heart is with me, I will never choose but you and never substitute you for anyone else. Okay, but as a literary language we can say, had my heart been with me, I would have chosen none but you. I have chosen none but you. Nor would I exchanged يعني استبدلت أو تبادلت your love for anyone else's. Okay, so I need you to translate the following lines. لست أنسى من نأت عني ما دام لي في هذه الدنيا رمق. Let's think together. لست أنسى it can be I never forget those I love, for example. I never forget those I love as long as I live. Let's translate it literally. So long, زي شكسبير بقى. So long as I live, I shall never forget my beloved، يعني اللي أنا بحبهم، ما دام لي في هذه الدنيا رمق، يعني so long as I live I shall never forget my beloved. Even if she chose to stay away. فأنا عملت العكس تماما. تمام، جبت آخر الشطر في الأول. من نأت عني هي نفسها حتى لو اختارت إنها إيه؟ إنها تبعد. طيب أجي عيناك نازلت القلوب فكلها، عيناك حربت كل القلوب، فكلها إما جريح أو مصاب بالمقتل. Let's translate it in an ordinary language. Your eyes fought all hearts. They are either killed or wounded. But literally speaking, we can translate it as your eyes waged a fierce battle against all hearts, a fierce battle against all hearts, causing them out. They are all either bleeding or helplessly agonizing. Okay? طيب وإني لأهوى النوم في غير حينه لعل لقاء في المنام يكون. I hope أو I sometimes sleep at any minute. Maybe a chance of a meeting is awaiting. Let's translate it literally. Oh, how I desire to fall asleep at any moment. لعل, perchance, I may see the beloved in my dreams أو in my slumber أو in my sleep. The last sentence or the last poetry line we have ولولا الهوى ما زل في الأرض عاشق ولكن عزيز العاشقين ذليل. ممكن نترجمها ordinary language as there is no humiliation in life but for love. The mighty in love is the more humiliated. Let's translate it literally as if it weren't for love, no lover on earth would be subdued. Nonetheless, even the mightiest lover is in love subdued. Okay, so as we have seen, literary translation may have some sort of a specific word order or a specific sound effect, and all of these examples are very, very important at the exam, inshallah. See you next time.